It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Introduce you to Libertarian candidate Casey Copeland. He's running as a Libertarian. He's running for the State House, District 80. Casey, welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Why did you decide to throw your hat in the ring and run for this particular House seat?
Paul, I have been on and off involved in politics for 20 years or so. Back in '98, I won a spot on the Washington County Quorum Court, spent two terms there, and then decided to go to law school and start families and start a career.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of years ago, while I was in law school, watching how the federal government was expanding, watching then under the Obama administration how it kept expanding and how the states started to follow, I just decided that government is growing at unprecedented rates. We are giving over more and more private tasks to government agencies, and that is just a cost and a path that I just don't think that we can go down as a state or as a nation. So my small government inclinations, my limited government inclinations, and my inclination for government to control spending, which means that they don't tax us as much, led me to jump into this race this year.
That sounds like a great reason. Talk about where you kind of got your libertarian philosophy from. I mean, was it in law school that you realized that more liberty is better?
Well, just some of that, and then just getting out and getting out on my own, starting a family, and opening up a small office of my own, and just living life, kind of led me to that conclusion. It was really in 2006 when I joined the party after watching the federal government decide to bail out so many private corporations with our money. I just decided that both parties appeared to be parties of big government, and that just wasn't what I believed. I was a Republican when I was on the Quorum Court, and that's when I thought that the Republican Party really was a party of small, limited government. And just over time, my eyes opened up, and I decided that they weren't. And I decided to join the Libertarian Party because their principles really are about small, limited government and more freedom for consumers and taxpayers and just people in general.
Why do you think it's for somebody who, like you said, who thought that those ideals were in the Republican Party? I mean, they put limited government back in the platform. Recently, the Republicans did here in Arkansas. Of course, it did get taken out, which was weird. Why do you think it's so hard for Republicans to actually limit government the way the platform says?
Well, I think once you become a party in power, there is, I guess, an expectation to run government. And I think that once you're in that power and have that authority and that expectation, you want people to see you running government efficiently and properly. And for some reason, the Republicans have convinced themselves that means helping people and spending more money and shifting taxes around to make it look like they're cutting taxes. And I think it's just an influence of power and authority that creeps in, that kind of clouds the way that they really should be looking at what government should and shouldn't do and how to make things better for consumers and taxpayers and people.
We're talking with Casey Copeland. He's a Libertarian candidate for District 80. Tell us about the geographic boundaries of District 80. Whereabouts is that?
Well, it is basically all of western Washington County and down into northwestern Crawford County. The cities that it includes are Prairie Grove, Lincoln, and Cedarville, and then all the small little communities and farms and spots in between and around. The northern boundary is just west of Johnston, and then the southern boundary is just basically south of Uniontown.
And the current occupant of that seat is Republican State Representative Charlene Fight, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
And there's three of us in this race. It's her, myself, and a Democrat by the name of Lou Sharp. So it's a three-way race this year for District 80.
Three-way race. I want to get back to the Libertarian way. You said that or the Republican issue here. You said that Republicans get in there, and then they're expected to run government. So they may promise to take the Cadillac of government and trade it in, sell it, and get a Pinto instead, more efficient. But then when they get in there, Casey, Cadillac's nice. This is pretty nice. You know what? I think we can just drive this a little bit better than the Democrats who had it before us. So let me ask you this. That seems to be kind of almost a human nature issue as well. So do you think that danger could also materialize in the Libertarian Party if they were ever in control?
You know, I think Libertarians do a pretty good job of keeping each other in check, whether it's on social media or at conventions. It's a wide range of individuals. They are very vocal. They're not the kind of people that would simply say, okay, that's what our party wants to do, so that's what I'm going to support. In my experience, if the Libertarian doesn't like what the Libertarian Party is going to do, they're going to be probably the most vocal about it. So there's a lot of internal regulation in the Libertarian movement. You know, I myself, I'm not the most libertarian person out there. I generally believe in the principles of the party, of limited government, of lower taxes, of more freedom, of more choice, government getting out of markets, letting markets control themselves. But there are people that take it further, and we kind of, in discussions and in debates, we check each other, and we just kind of maintain. We help keep each other's feet on the ground, I think. And let me say this: as far as Republicans being in power in Arkansas, they didn't just step into the Cadillac; they upgraded it. They came in and created a way to get 150% raise in their pay and get a per diem and extend their time in office. So they didn't just sit down in the same Cadillac Democrats were driving; they traded it in for something better.
Yes, I would agree with that. It's been interesting to watch. On that is specifically Casey Copeland. What are some of the problems? I mean, what are some of the problems facing Arkansas right now that you would address if you were to win?
Well, the general purpose of my campaign is to watch out for the things that matter in my district. That's small farms, small businesses, and small towns. And I think that there is so much big city influence in our state government that some of these things get pushed aside. You see how big hospitals and big insurance companies are running the debate on our health care issues. You see how big corporate farms control some of the debates on agricultural issues. People forget that there's a whole lot of folks just like my family who just have a few chicken houses, maybe bale a little bit of hay every year to sell. And, we're not giant operations, but we are often left out of some of these debates. So I think that once lawmakers get down to Little Rock and get wined and dined in that big city, they get influenced by more and more urban and big city ideas and control.
I don't know how you feel. I agree with that. I've actually heard somebody say before. Well, it was kind of hearsay, but somebody said that they heard a politician say before that being a politician in Arkansas is delicate because you have to balance the interests of Little Rock with the interests of your district. And I thought, wow. I mean, if that's true, but that I think is an apparent mentality. If you just look at the results that we have, they seem to have to balance. It's like, wait a second, Little Rock people didn't elect you. Your people did.
And I think that, Paul, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think that also has something to do with the two-party system and all the money that's in Little Rock that gets fed into the Republican and Democrat parties, so that the parties kowtow to the Little Rock money, and then the parties control their individual, or try to control their individual members as much as they can. So because Little Rock has a lot of influence with those two big parties, therefore Little Rock then has a lot of influence over the individual members that come down there. And I think it's just follow the money. I think that's the answer.
I know President Trump is a Republican, but from my standpoint, Casey, he is not. He doesn't represent the status quo. He seems to be shaking things up in a lot of ways, and so I'm just curious, as a libertarian, watching this, what are your thoughts about what President Trump is doing and what he's done so far?
I think the best thing that he's doing is that he's approaching a lot of these problems from a different angle. He's not coming at them as a career politician who has been in the system or been in party politics his whole career, and he's not coming in there with that mentality. So he's looking at it more as a businessman, almost looking at it more as a private citizen would look at it, rather than somebody who has been trained and influenced and groomed by party politics for years and years. So I think that is a benefit. I think it's good to have a fresh set of eyes, look at some of these problems differently, and he's having some success with that. Of course, as a libertarian, we don't really like government controlling and regulating markets too much, and I think that he's more inclined to do some of that. But really, I think the best thing about what he's doing is he's looking at it unlike politicians look at these problems.
Yeah. No, I like what you said. He's looking at it like a private citizen would look at it, and that certainly is the case. And it's almost like he's looking at the problems for the first time. I mean, I know he's not necessarily, but he's looking at the problems, like you said. He hasn't been indoctrinated with what he's supposed to think. He's looking at each problem, as it's a separate problem. Okay, what's the quickest way to fix this? Yeah, there may, and then after you have some of those ideas, you say, well, there may be some unintended consequences if we do it this way or whatever. But I mean, I found it. Like, for example, with NATO. I mean, we spent all this money on NATO, and nobody else, is paying their fair share, to use the progressive term. But when he made that point in front of the world and in front of NATO about Germany making that deal with Russia, and there's 60% of their gas now coming from Russia, they're making Russia rich, but then they want protection from Russia. I mean, just to point out a hypocrisy. I mean, that's a hypocrisy that would be pointed out if you took that situation and shrunk it down. You would, around a water cooler at an office somewhere, somebody would make that point, and he's making it to their face, and it shakes everything up, and that's what's so refreshing about what he does sometimes.
I mean, you set aside some of the arguments about morals and ethics. He makes people in politics who are career politicians, he makes them uncomfortable. And I think we can all appreciate that.
Yes. I think you're exactly right. It is so much fun to watch some of these guys, just kind of squirm a little bit. We're talking with Casey Copeland. He's a Libertarian candidate for State Representative District 80. So, Casey, I'd love for you to tell our audience, if people want to know more about you, where they can find that information.
Well, I'm on Facebook. The Russians haven't hacked me yet.
Good.
It's at Elect Copeland on Facebook. We've got a website that's going to push out later this week, maybe early next week. So right now, Facebook is probably the best place. And, they can send me messages or post stuff, and I try to respond as quick as I can.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Casey, I certainly appreciate you coming on the program. I'd love to do this again, especially, as the campaign, gets into full gear. There's going to be news and stuff to talk about. So you feel free to, come on the program anytime, okay?
Sure, absolutely. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Casey Copeland, everybody. He's a Libertarian. He's a candidate for State Representative in District 80. And we certainly appreciate him coming on the program. We're going to take a break. Going to be right back here in just a minute, so don't go anywhere. Thanks so much for